Hi, you guys. Welcome to another episode with me, your host, Gianna, an episode of I Really Love Myself, the podcast. And if you're new here, if you're not new here, the drill of what we get into. I've been coaching people around their relationships for over 10 years now. We go into things like codependency, self-love, sensuality, feminine energy, all things like manifesting your soulmate or soulmates because you have more than one, and really just being your authentic self and following your alignment and being in your wholeness as a woman. And as I bring on some pretty freaking stellar guests, and we're doing a really cool episode today that I've been wanting to do for a while with my mom. And my mom is here with us today, and we're going to be getting into a really juicy conversation around things like soul family and healing generational trauma and even just sharing like some personal things about how our relationship has healed and evolved over the years and just being kind of real about it. And I've shared a lot of stories about how over the years, if you are familiar with me, about how my childhood experience impacted the work that I do in this world and just like my view on relationships, like for better or for worse. And I've also shared a lot about how I was raised by my mom, who is a psychic medium. And that spiritual foundation was honestly everything to me. And so we're going to have some really juicy, like metaphysical and like healing, powerful conversations. So I hope you enjoy. But before we dive in, my mom is going to say hi and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robbie Porter. I'm Gianna's mom, and I'm really looking forward to today. I think we're going to dive into some deep stuff here and some light stuff and some fun stuff. So I really look forward to this conversation.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a psychic medium,
Yeah.
and I have been doing this work for over 35 years of my life. I had my spiritual awakening when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I started learning tarot and palmistry. And there's a little bit of history of me with getting kicked out of the Lutheran church when I was going through confirmation. And I began my study of spiritual stuff. I started going to all these different kinds of churches after that and would go to the library as a little girl and read up on different religions. And that really became part of a foundation of what I come to know as that there's a common thread through all of them, which is quite amazing. And none of them are right, and none of them are wrong. They're all paths to source. I've worked, like I said, I worked in a metaphysical bookstore for about 4 years in my 20s. Then I went out on my own,
And don't
and
be humble. Tell them about the cool stuff that you've done because you've done a lot.
don't be humble. There's so much,
I
Gianna.
know, like you're like my mom is like the real life Alison Dubois of medium. That was like our childhood to an extent, but also throw in a toxic relationship, but we'll come back to that. But my mom is, and I'm just gonna interrupt for a second and say I have worked with, I'm very into like spiritual development and I love getting readings. And I've paid so many readers to like give me readings. And honestly, like I just go back to my mom because it's like she's just so good. Like she's so good at what she does. And like she has done really incredible things with her career and helped a lot of people in a lot of ways, like helped solve like crimes. Okay. I don't know. Anyways, go on.
That's actually something that I did when I was younger. I don't particularly care to do that work
Yeah,
because
it's a lot.
if you can think about like having a really vivid memory where you feel all the things, that's what a psychic vision is like. And so it's like when you're working on a murder investigation or trying to help a parent find a lost or missing or murdered child, it gets very, as a mom, I never want to tell another mother that their child is gone, but I have, and I've helped locate bodies. I've done a lot of different things and worked on investigations, like you said. But there are a lot of wonderful, amazing psychics, mediums that do that work. That's their field of expertise. So if that comes across my plate these days,
Pass it
unless it's
on.
something I just pass it on. Yeah, it's because when I was younger too, I wouldn't like. I have a little bit more detachment now that I'm in my 50s. But when I
Yeah.
was in my 20s and 30s, it was really hard. And especially working with the police or private investigators, it's like going to the principal's office. It's like, how do you know this? And
Yeah.
it just, I don't like it. And I've been, like I said, I've been doing this work for a long time and I'm a medium. So that means that I can connect
I
people with their
see
loved
dead
ones.
people.
I see dead people.
Yeah.
I started studying astrology when I was about 15. I have a huge library of books, most all metaphysical stuff.
Master
Um,
tarot reader.
yeah, I started reading tarot when I was 9 because my mom read cards and she was very superstitious. And yeah, so she always hid them because it's the old wives' tale of it's like you can't get rid of tarot cards, you have to bury them or burn them. And it's so she buried,
Why
she
would you want to
buried.
get rid of tarot cards, though? That's the
Yeah, I
question.
don't know. Grandma was really good at reading cards, and but she scared herself and she scared people. And Grandma was she was a very wounded woman. It's like she was sexually traumatized as a young girl, and she carried a lot of that trauma with her while she was raising her kids. And she was you never got to meet Grandma when she was like raising,
When
like
she had the energy to do all that.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, so it's hard to raise kids when you're coming from a place of trauma
Yeah.
and it made her love choices very icky. I had a very abusive stepfather when I was about 5 or 6 years old. He used to beat the bleep out of me because I wet the bed when I was in kindergarten and first grade, and he would beat me for that. If I spilled water when I was taking a bath over the bathtub, I would get beat for that. He would
I
abuse
should have
my
thrown a trigger
dad.
warning on this episode. I don't know why I didn't at the beginning, but anyways, trigger warning, abuse,
Yeah,
cycles,
yeah,
trauma, anyways.
and so it's like I am all about forgiveness. I studied the Course in Miracles. I started studying the course, I think, in my mid 30s, maybe like early 30s. I am 55, just so y'all know. I'm in the menopause now.
The menopause, entering your
Um,
crone era.
I love it, Gianna. I love it. It's like
Good.
I love not being like run by my ovaries anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's I have no more room for toxic men in my life, which I married two and had relationships with a few more. And I'm really it's like I just am loving pouring into myself at this point in my life.
Good.
And I told you last night on the phone, it's like I love my life. I had to move away from where you grew up and to heal myself after a really toxic marriage because I'm very led by my heart. I had the blinders on a lot of the times with both your dad and your stepdad's dad.
No, it was my brother, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. He's 24. All my kids are amazing. Love
Oh,
Brent.
thank you.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, yes, I do all the psychic woo-woo stuff and I have clients all over the world. I don't advertise. I have really good word of mouth. I don't even have anything on my Facebook page
The
about
amount of clients I feel like I kick you, I'm like, anybody that mentions like a reading, I'm like, go to my mom. Like a lot of my clients also get readings from my mom. Like I've sent like my own clients to my mom.
I'm a very good medical intuitive, but I've worked with doctors all over, I would say North America, because I haven't been to the other continents. I used to work with some doctors from Santa Vive in Mexico. That was one of the first holistic hospitals where they really treat from a holistic level, like mind, body, spirit, which I loved. As a psychic medium, medical intuitive, I can see into the body a lot of things before they actually manifest on tests. And I'm very holistic as far as how I live and how I take care of myself and my body. It's like I just started working out again. So yay me. It's like that's like I realized that it's like I just want to feel I want my outside to match my inside now. It's
Yeah, I
like
love that.
when before it's like my outside was young and fit and beautiful and my insides were a little not the greatest. Because I did a lot of heavy lifting with my healing stuff from my own upbringing and being raised by someone who survived sexual trauma, my mother, and it's an abuse myself, not from my stepfather, never my mother, but my mother was a rage monster. She would
Yeah.
scream and throw things at me, and we lived and I was raised by a divorced mom in the 70s and the 80s, which all my girlfriends, they came from the nuclear family, mom, dad, siblings, and I was always the odd one. And so it was always, and that's one of the things, like for me, that I always wanted, I craved, I coveted having a partner that loved me
Yeah, like a
to raise a
family.
family
Yeah.
with. And I used to say that I had a broken picker. I don't say that anymore because I think that just programs, oh, you're a broken picker. And so
Yeah.
I don't say
Negative
that.
self-mantra. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you create you create your reality through your thoughts and your energy. I really didn't want to create that for myself because I remember in my 20s when I really started doing the hard work with like my mom. And it wasn't like I was doing it with her. I was doing it for myself because of you guys. I didn't want you guys, I didn't want shit to roll downhill.
Was this before you had any of us? So for context, I am like a middle sibling. Me and my identical twin are like the middle sibling, and we have an older sister who's 2 years older, and then we have my little brother, which we already referenced, who's like technically like a half sibling, but like we grew up together, so it doesn't feel that way. But yeah, so when you to give
So
and I
context, I was 23 when I had Bella. I was 25 when I had you.
yeah, and I'm
And I
29
was
about to
sort
be
of,
30. I don't have
no, it's
kids.
like I was like married with 4 kids by the time at your age. And
Yeah.
it's so it really blows my mind that you're going to be 30. Ah. But it's like I
Aw.
just, and so I knew that I came from a broken thing. I knew that my mom was very fundamentally broken. She loved, she would take a bullet for you. And I am very much like that. But she was also, like I said, a rage monster, really like a lot of negativity,
Not good
you
at
know,
regulating her emotions,
yeah, at
victim
all.
mentality a bit.
Yes, and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until after like I split up with your dad and I started working at Bell Book and Candle, that metaphysical shop.
Mhm.
And the woman that owned it, she came from a therapy background. And, she said to me one day, my mom came to the store and I don't know, something, and it's like Cindy said to me, she said, Robbie, she goes, you look like the when your mom was talking to you, you looked like a wounded 3-year old. And it just
Aw.
and I was like, whoa. And what a better place to start my healing journey with healing my own wounds than a metaphysical shop with a woman that owns it from a therapy background. And
Meant to
Cindy,
be.
yeah, it was divine alignment, I think. And
Hmm.
I met some amazing people there through that place. But there was one book in particular that really shifted me, and I've got it right here. I want to show
Oh,
everybody.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, me too, Louise Hay. Louise Hay. I love
Louise
her so
Hay,
much.
You Can Heal Your Life.
Such a
And
classic.
it is a classic. May she rest in peace. I thought Louise would live forever. And
Yeah.
I actually used to give workshops on this book and when at Bell Book and Candle.
Love it.
And one of the things in the beginning of the books is she talks about how we pick our parents. And
Ooh, before we continue, this is one thing that I want to talk about because this is something that, and my mom's going to share more on after, but the thing that I will say that has brought me, that feels just really true for me is that I believe, and this is something that I learned from my mom growing up, but it just has always resonated, which is I really believe that it's like our souls have like intentions for our lifetime. And it's like we choose the time and the location and the parents and the family to be born into to fulfill those intentions. And also simultaneously, it cohesively goes alongside of liberating like that family lineage and the collective and like the collective man and woman and feminine and masculine as well. And so it's like the desires that you have are for a reason. And it's like knowing that, like in particular, helped me heal a lot so much and resonating with that because growing up, like when I would compare myself and like my family and my home or like my parents, no offense, better for worse, right? Because I believe,
I
and
did the same thing, Gianna, growing up.
yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
And just so you
So I
know,
completely understand.
yeah, and just so you know, like me and my mom, like we have healed so much in our relationship over the years and we're able to have really like honest, like loving, candid conversations. So like some people might be caught off guard, like hearing the way that we're able to talk to each other, be like, you can say that to your mom without her like crying and hanging up on you, or like your mom can say that to you without you like crying and hanging up on her or whatever. But like I remember growing up, like I would compare like traditional, like more traditional dynamics and like families to what I had. And it was from a place of like lack. And I was like, oh, like whatever. But like now as an adult, like looking back on it, I see how, because I think everybody has a mixed bag of like privilege and like a lack of privilege, advantages, disadvantages. And it's like the perfect recipe for your lifetime to set you up for what you are meant to do and be and have. And like with looking back now, and especially as I've gotten older, like I feel I feel really blessed to have had you as my mom. And in particular, like the spiritual foundation that like you gave me and you instilled into me at a young age. And nothing was perfect. And I don't think that there is a perfect parent, but it's like the way that the thing that you gave me that has honestly probably saved my life and just given me purpose is like my spiritual foundation and like the way that you were that example and how you were like working with people and like helping people heal like through your readings and like the holistic elements that you would intertwine into your like metaphysical work and like how you really pulled me and my twin sister Genevieve into it and taught us so much. And like my mom has, she doesn't have as many books as she used to, but it's like she has her own metaphysical library that I had access to. And so it's like the way based on like my like the resources that I had and didn't have, like her bookshelves were like and my self studying of her books were things that just gave me so much and that a lot that I could build off of for the rest of my life. So all that to say, as you were about to say, we choose our family. And like I've talked a lot about that throughout my work about how like the relationships that I will commit to or not commit to are in spite of things and are for a purpose, right? But also too, like you're a different link in the chain of our family line, right? So it's like you've been able to outgrow certain things that you experience and also even maybe witness like your kids. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but I feel like I can because I feel like I've heard you say this. But like you've also gotten to see like your kids change things like even further, right? So anything that you want
Absolutely,
to say
honey.
about all that?
Once again, this Louise Hay book was a game changer for me, and I've
Yeah.
read it many times at different incarnations of myself. And I always get little nuggets out of it every single time I've read it. And I've gifted, I don't even know, dozens of copies to clients over the years and friends because I think people should just read this book because it's such a
Yeah.
huge thing. But I just wanted to ask you one thing. Do you remember like when you guys were growing up and then you guys would be like fighting or you'd be like, Mom, and I would be like, Hey, I was like, remember you picked me.
I knew you were gonna say that and I laughed in advance. You'd be like, I'd be like, you suck, mom. You'd be like, you picked me before you incarnated. It was never like, it was like a very metaphysical mom comeback. Instead of, too bad, I'm the mother you were born with. It's like, your soul picked me.
Yeah, we picked each other, honey. So I
Yeah.
truly believe that because we're soul family. And when I also tie that in with our astrological birth chart, there's so much stuff in there. So you can see your wounds and call it your blueprint. It's like it's your blueprint for your lifetime. It's if you were going to build a house, right? It's like you don't see if it's going to be brick or stone or wood or sided. You get to decorate it. But that's the foundation of who you are in this incarnation. And like I said, I did a lot of the heavy lifting and I was not a perfect mother. I know that. But I had this one thing these two big things that I always tried to keep in my mind. Is this going to fuck my kids up? And it's like in hindsight, it's like my heart is what got in my way because I fell in love with two imperfect men that one was a narcissist and the other one was an alcoholic. And with the whole love bombing with the second marriage and then the taking away and all that stuff, we don't need to go into that just yet. But it was I probably would have still been married to the man. Not now, but I wouldn't have, like because I didn't want to ever be divorced because I came from a divorced home and so it's like I really wanted to overcorrect that. And
Yeah.
I did. It's
Sometimes
like
we do. That's the thing. Like in relationships, it's like our
mhm,
anxiety and our fear of ending up like what we saw growing up or ending up like our parents, we often go to the opposite extreme sometimes.
yeah. And so here's a little tidbit of I saw my mother when I was a young girl, like after she divorced the abusive guy. And it's like my half siblings, my father and my mother were only together a very brief time. And I learned when I was in my 20s, I think I was 22, that my mom was actually married to another man when she got pregnant with me. And that was like a
Yeah.
for me. And nobody ever told me that. And until I was my half sister that I actually don't speak to anymore.
Yeah.
But
Come
she told
on,
me that.
Deanne.
I know it's a try.
Anyways, we'll move on. I'm
Yeah,
just
no
throwing in
problem.
a little family tea, but anyways.
And then I also saw like my mom have numerous affairs with married men when I was growing up
Yeah.
until she met the love of her life, Willie, when I was in eighth grade. And I would have been about 13 years old. And I was like, it was always like, guy comes over, throws me $5. Hey, kid, why don't you go get some candy, ride your bike for a couple of hours. And as an adult, I know what that meant now. And like, that also shaped who I am. It's like I come from a place of integrity. It's like I don't cheat. I seem to have always been cheated on, but again, I loved imperfect humans, and I'm okay with that. They're great learning. I learned so much from both of them.
Yeah, loving their potential a bit.
Oh yeah, I did, especially your father. Oh my gosh, Gianna, when he was so persistent when we were in our 20s and early 20s. He was just like, he showed up like I was his boss. I worked as a waitress at that point in my
You
life.
were his boss? Why did
I
I
was
not
his
know this?
boss.
Ooh,
Yeah,
spicy. He was trying to get a raise. Just kidding.
but it's like he was engaged to this girl named Kayleen, and he ended up like breaking up, didn't have a place to live. And me and my roommate were like, oh, we've got a sofa. We all worked at the same place. And then it was like I would wake up and he would be in my bed. And it's like in the middle of the night and he would just be touching me. And I come to find out that was a pattern with him.
We're not going to go maybe too deep into that one, maybe if possible,
It,
but yeah.
so there's a little
Well,
sexual predatoriness with her dad. It's like you didn't know what you didn't know. It's again, she's
yeah.
like, touching me, get out of my bed.
And also, one thing I will say, and first of all, I want to acknowledge that I know like you're sharing just a lot really vulnerably, and I know that can be uncomfortable, but I know that you're also very comfortable in these things because you've done a lot of healing personally, and also like our family has done a lot of healing, so we're able to talk about things a lot more easily. But something I will say, it's consent is like a newer concept, like in terms of history, right? So back
Yeah,
in the 80s, like 70s, 80s, 90s, right? It can be more
yeah.
like just, it can be not that it's not okay. It's definitely absolutely not okay, but
There was always consent, but it's
it'd
like
be like,
as
oh,
far as
haha, what's
I was,
that?
like when I
Yeah,
was growing up, but your dad didn't know about consent. And as we know that
yeah.
he comes from a family history of where there was sexual abuse throughout a certain line in his family. And I don't know if anything ever like that happened to your dad, even if he would know. Let's say know your grandma, it's like she was sexually abused as well, but didn't realize it until her own biological father passed away when she was in her 50s, my age.
We'll say, just real quick, let's try if we can to just share more about like our own personal stuff and not share too much about other people's stuff if
Okay.
possible. Because I just want to
Well,
be
the thing
respectful.
is we're talking about
Right.
lineage and genealogy and how shit rolls downhill through the
Right.
lineage.
So, but
It's
let's
like,
try and
so
be a little
there
bit more
really,
general when it comes to other people's stuff, if possible.
okay, I'll do my
Just
best.
okay, I get it. It's not a perfect thing, and this is new territory for me as an interviewer as well. So
You know,
we're bouncing around.
and also my dad was an alcoholic, your dad's an alcoholic,
Yeah.
my mom's mom was an alcoholic, so that was also a big thing. I'm not a drinker, never really has been. I had my little bit in my early 20s where I always called those the drunk years. In a restaurant, we always went out and partied and drank and afterwards and and just living our fun life in our
Hmm.
analog time back then in the early 90s. And but it's so the reason why I bring that stuff up is it's like we carry that stuff unconsciously whether we know it or not. And it's
And it's in our
you know
DNA too.
it is. And it's because if you think about it's like an egg and a sperm, it's like you're carrying all that genetic information as well as wounds because that stuff goes into us as well. And so we
Hmm.
literally would carry it forward. And
Yeah.
until that person is born into the line and they say, nope, no more, it stops here with me. And I would like to say that I am the first one that started that stuff. And like I said, I was still imperfect. I give
Hmm.
myself a lot of grace now, where in the past I didn't, because it's like you don't know what you don't know. And honestly, like I said, I loved imperfect humans
Yeah.
and being imperfect myself. I always tell people if we were perfect, we wouldn't be in a body on earth in earth. It's like we'd be somewhere way else. We'd be
We'd be
hanging with
in the angelic realm.
yeah, with Jay. And it's like I know that I understand why you're saying that stuff, and it's you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or share stuff that doesn't need to be shared. But I'm all about it's like bringing things to the light, and it's because you can't heal things in the dark, and that was
Yeah.
that's one of the things that really I think my mom wanted to do, because nobody in her family would stand up for her. Like I'm talking her mother and her grandparents and the one uncle that abused her sexually. Nobody stood up for her,
Yeah.
and she wanted somebody to stand up for her. And she tried. And I remember when grandma was dying, and I said, I want you to forgive yourself, Mom. And she said, for what? And I said, for your sexual abuse. And she looked at me and she goes, I never told you that. And I was like, Mom, I'm like, you forget who I am and what I do. I've known that my whole life. And it's like one of the
Yeah.
biggest things I think looking at your parents as people, and they're imperfect and they're wounded, and some more than others. And I really believe that it's important to do the work, to
Yeah.
heal that stuff, give grace and not stay stuck in that loop of victimness. It's
Yeah.
like use it as an empowerment tool to shut up those layers of shame and ugliness that when it's mine came from. It's like you had an eating disorder growing up, so did I. It's like I felt so imperfect inside. I thought if I looked perfect on the outside that people would love me.
Yeah. It's
What
about
a
control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a false attitude to
Yeah.
have. And it took me a long time to fix that stuff. And then one of my children had the same issue, and I obviously didn't heal it enough.
There's
So,
also like societal factors too that get in
right.
there and
And there was back then too,
oh,
because I modeled when I was young, and from 13 until I think it was 12 when I started modeling. And then I modeled until I was about 20. And then I came back to Iowa and met your dad when I was about 21.
yeah.
And
Well, something I want to ask to help bring it all together a little bit. What would you say are some of the things that, like, if you were to like sum it up as best you could, like, what are some of the things that you feel like you have that, yeah, maybe one or two things that you feel like you've seen yourself interrupt in your family line, like as far as generational trauma. And then I want to touch on what you've seen through your children, okay, me and my siblings, like what you've seen us start to disrupt as far as generational trauma
okay,
patterns.
so I think there's some big ones.
Yeah.
Abuse, sexual and physical.
Hmm.
And I know that there was abuse when I was married to my second husband with you
Hmm.
guys. A lot of it I didn't even know about because I would be off traveling. There was some stuff like that did happen when I was there, and I always interrupted it. Not, it's like or other times I would be like, let's get the heck out of here. Like that trip when we went to LA, when I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And I know that I was imperfect, and I just wanted to,
And that's okay. You did better than the generation before you. And I
yeah,
chose you
yeah.
as my mom.
And I'm sitting here, I look at these women. This is my grandma
Yeah.
and my mom.
Aw. Grandma and great grandma for me.
She was an alcoholic, and alcoholism was a big one because of my dad. I never saw it hardly ever, a couple times, but grandma kept me pretty protected from that.
Yeah.
She didn't, it's like I remember growing up and grandma would call and she would just be so mean to my mom. Wish I would have brought some tissues. I didn't know I was going to cry.
Aw.
And my mom would get off. I was like, just hang up on her, mom. This is like me at 8 years old. Hang up on her.
Mhm.
It's like, your mom shouldn't be mean to you. And when she would get off the phone, and grandma was not a huggy person. She was very hands off. And I was a huggy person just by my nature, I think. And
Yeah.
so I would always hug her and I would be like, I love you, mommy. So I think by me being born to her, I healed a lot of stuff for her, but it's like she still had a lot of wounds. And it's like with us, it's like there's sexual abuse, financial abuse, it said sexual, physical abuse. I think those are some big ones.
Like, what, and would it be accurate to say, like, there's also alcoholism, like addiction, but also like elements of like codependency? And correct me if I'm wrong here. And my grandma, who, like, on my mom's mom, she's deceased, but at least in the physical form, I feel like she's on this interview with us right now, being like,
Yes.
yeah,
I just want to show this picture as
yeah,
well.
yeah, of
And
course.
so this picture is, I think I was 20. I'm trying to get it without the ring on there.
Blur, yeah.
This picture, I was around 20 or 21. And of course, this picture was when your sister was in Oklahoma. You can see her in the
The
background
musical,
between us.
yeah.
It's funny. And you can see the evolution of both of us, actually. both of us were really wounded in this place. And
Yeah.
this is when grandma was starting to get sick. Anyway, and it's like, I do believe that we pick our parents. And I think that I never drank around you guys. I was a periodic drinker
And
on
you like
anniversary.
never drank. I think I saw you drunk like maybe twice in my whole life. Maybe there's one time that I can really remember, honestly.
Yeah. And
Now
because I
that, on
think
the other hand, haha, just kidding. Morbid joke.
let's get into that a little bit, honey. Do you feel okay doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're sweet for checking. One thing that I will say is that for me personally, things that I felt very strongly about, like on my mom's side versus like my dad's side, like my mom always was my mom was like the most available, present parent to me. And I always felt loved, but I also like I did have like resentment like towards you for a while. And we in particular had a very rough patch in our relationship. I would say probably from age like 17 to 19, like in particular, because that was like you were like entering your divorce from my old stepdad and like the aftershocks of it, and like just it put you into a really like rough place. And
Well,
that really,
that was also like a year after grandma died.
yeah, yeah,
So
as
it's like
well.
grandma died, and then a year later, Rob and I split up.
Yeah, and
And so
he was nasty, like very like psychologically abusive and
emotionally,
physically,
financially,
financially. Like it was a really messy divorce that took a long time. And he was really, from my perspective, he loved, and this is where like the narcissistic traits, in my opinion, come through, where it's like he really liked to feel in control and he liked to use that control to like abuse, right? Whether it was like financially, oh, you're pissing me off, so I'm not going to pay this bill. Basically, I'm generalizing here. And
pretty accurate, honey.
there's nuance and yada and imperfect people and healing and compassion. I personally do not have a relationship with him, nor am I interested in one because I just don't feel personally adds any goodness to my life or it would be healthy or whatever just because of who he is. But during all of that, I know at times like I would find myself, and as I've gotten older, like I have a lot more like empathy and understanding. But when I was younger, like I would be like, Mom, leave this man. He is like making our lives miserable, right? He's like terrible. Like he's hurting us like in every way. And but I know that it's like you also had four kids and like there was like finances that intermingled into this dynamic and like financial abuse, right? And this is something that I talk a lot about, where this is one of the reasons why I even talk about feminine energy and like healthy masculine energy, because I think a woman, she has to be able to stand on her own 2 feet, but it's the reality is like when you have kids, like you fucking need support. And if your support system includes someone who wants to take advantage of that, right? And
Yeah,
lulls you in like with love bombing and whatever, especially like if you are like in a vulnerable place as is, right? That puts you into a really sticky situation. And that's what I essentially witnessed growing up. And in the interims of that, it's like there was financial abuse and physical abuse and psychological abuse and a lot of gaslighting and things. And like I think, and this is honestly, this is very normal and not anything to be like ashamed of, but I think that it's like you were so affected and broken down, like understandably as anybody would have been, honestly, that like at times it's like you would act out of character for who you really were. And that would come out like in our maybe relate like in our relationship and just like your ability to be able to have a healthy relationship with other people in general. Because it's like abuse can be so isolating, especially like a domestic violence situation. And also
right.
too, it's
And he destroyed many relationships. So it's
yep,
like
I remember that.
the two people that stuck by me were my childhood best friend and Dave.
Yeah,
And
he was
you
like
know, and
my
it's like
non-technical, but he's like my uncle basically.
and and loyalty is very important to me because I've never really had a person be loyal to me in a romantic relationship. And now I've never been romantic with Dave, never been romantic with Angie, but I love them. They're my family of choice, not by blood. And that's how I choose. I chose them, and I still do. And it's like the whole he destroyed my relationship with one of my sisters, and she witnessed she when she would come visit. it, and she witnessed the stuff that he would say and do and abuse. And then
Mhm.
she turned around and I don't know, he love bombed her or something.
And he tried to do that with me,
And
Jenna,
Bella,
uh, yeah,
she
me
tried
and
to
my
get all you
siblings.
guys.
Yeah. And I
Yep.
was like, to me at the time, because I was just in a place of like desperation in general of having no support, that I was, whatever you say, like, I'll take the $20. But I just like, in the back of my mind, I was like, no. I was like, I know that this is like, he's like a black widow, like laying a web. And I was like, I see the web. I'm going to pretend like I don't see it. And I'm going to like benefit because I'm a young girl that really is desperate. And at the time, I know that was hard for
And I,
you because he had
well,
turned,
like because I was so messed up, I really couldn't work.
yeah.
And it's like, because I'd never experienced grief until I lost my mom. And that
Hmm.
was a whole nother thing that I didn't even know existed because I've been a medium my whole life. And then grandma didn't come through for what, 5 months? And I was swirling the drain by that time. There was times I couldn't get out of bed. You remember.
Yeah.
And I was struggling. And then not long with less than a year later, the marriage blew up, split up finally. And honestly, that was a relief, but it was ugly. And then we tried to reconcile and it was still ugly.
When you
Uh,
reconciled, I was like, no. Like I couldn't even make eye contact with the man. I was like, don't look at me, bitch. Don't do it.
and when I think about like when your brother went to the Air Force Academy down there in San Antonio, and then Bella and I, that's your older sister,
Yep.
and we all drove to San Antonio for his graduation. I was freaking nervous. I had anxiety that I hadn't
Yeah.
had since like 2013,
Understandable.
2012. And I
He
was
was
just
so
like,
abusive.
I'm like, I thought it would be okay if his dad was there, but then I found out that dad was too sick to come. And I was just like, oh, I was just like, I literally had knots in my solar plexus in my gut. And it was like, but I had to be there for Noah because I was so proud of him. And so I swallowed it all and went. And I was surprised that he was a little different. It's like he had told me that he'd been in therapy and all this stuff. He still has a lot of work to do, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I'm sure he has.
But it isn't anything that I would ever go back to. That's because he hurt my children. He hurt me. And it's all I wanted to do was
And
be
you can do
loved.
so much better.
Not that I want to anymore, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, not being led around by the ovaries.
Yeah. Which, by the way, my mom is single, but I will say with a crystal in hand, a very sharp crystal in hand, make sure you have a job if you're going to be slipping into her DMs. Make sure you have a job. Make sure you are not an alcoholic. There's just a couple of things I'm going to need, and probably a little self-awareness,
A lot of self-awareness.
a connection. Her personal preference is like that you're spiritual in some way, but
I
I feel
didn't come
like
on here. I didn't come on here to get a date, like have dating stuff. Yeah.
we'll come back
I'm
to that
like,
another time. I'm just kidding.
it's
I'm
like,
like being
well,
playful, but I
but
swear to
it's like
God, if some
I'm
dusty jumps
all
in your
soul mission
DMs,
right now. I'm all soul
yeah,
mission right now.
good, good. Okay, but what I was gonna say and what I will say is because of the stuff on like I will say like your relational karma, like that's part of like why I even got into the work that I do, like through relationship coaching. And for me, like I live and breathe one of the most important things to me personally and in my work is like codependency work, like self-love work, healing that relational trauma that kind of unconsciously affects you, right? Where it's like where we unconsciously are like trying to get a man to choose us that inflames like our father abandonment wound or whatever it is, right? And like to me also, I was always, and this is one of the reasons why I don't have kids yet. And honestly, I do want them, but I don't want to have, I think having children is that's not something I take lightly. Like I want to, like when I do, assuming I do have them, which whatever,
According to
I,
Grandma, you are.
according to my passed on grandmother, it does happen. I'm not like too worried about it, but I don't take that lightly. Like I want to not only have stability and consistency for them, like practically, but also like emotionally. And I do think that I could give like all of that, but I don't want to quite yet. And also I would want it to be with the right person who also wants to do that and is ready to do that. And like for me, like there's a reason why like I personally have like by choice not gotten married yet and not had kids yet. And it doesn't mean that I won't, but the thing is like there's overcorrection, and that's something that I've thought a lot about too, where it's like where I'm like, okay, just because I don't want to be in a position felt like you were, right? Which was it like in a form of an overcorrection from what you experienced, right? Of where like you wanted the family, you wanted that like nuclear family, and like you wanted to stay together with someone. And like for me, I'm like, I will absolutely not be trapped. I will not have children with someone who like is unhealthy emotionally or toxic, or I will not, or someone who like doesn't pull their fair share of weight, or someone who's like who's
Yeah.
abusive. And also yeah, but it's like we also have to be mindful of any pattern where it's like if there's overcorrection, that can be anxiety too, because if I were unconscious, I think I would never feel ready to have kids, and I would be like, oh, I just never felt ready, so I didn't do it. But I know that it's like you can never feel 100% ready for something like that. You just do your best. And like I've studied a lot about like child psychology and attachment style development, which affects so much of how you are in relationships. And like the thing is, it's like when parents are like, when you've had an abusive childhood of some kind, and it's like, you're like, I really don't want to repeat that. I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to repeat her like dynamics, or be like my father or repeat his dynamics. It's like, that is so beautiful, and that awareness and that healing is important. But it's like, you also have to be mindful of like where you're teetering into an overcorrection. And as a
Like I
result,
did.
like,
Like I stayed in a shitty marriage.
yeah, and that's your trauma, like still controlling you,
Yep.
even if you're not exactly having the same experience. And so, if I were not aware, like I would probably just be, I would never probably have kids. But it's like I'm aware of that about myself, to where it's like I can have a like a logical assessment of am I ready and what do I actually want, and okay, let me get myself and like my life set up to be able to do that, which I'm just not there personally yet. But yeah, so like with all of
And
that,
I was definitely not ready to have Bella, but I couldn't imagine my life without her or you
I know.
guys or
I know.
Noah for that matter. I'm so thankful for the kids that I have. And I
Yeah.
believe that souls
There's no
pop
one
into our,
right way.
yeah, there's no right way. And I believe souls also pop into our animals if they can't incarnate through a baby, through a
Yeah.
physical human
My
incarnation.
last dog was definitely my soul child. I'll say that.
Oh, Zan, I
hmm
miss him so much.
Yeah. I actually keep something of his. I keep his little bandana near my desk. It's off screen.
That
It's
makes
always
me
there.
so, oh, I love him so much.
Me too. He's the best.
I
But
was
okay.
like, how we named him. It was just like he was laying on our sofa, and I was like, wow, he is just so zen. He was the golden
hmm
lab, which
Yep.
they're really typically pretty hyper until they're about 4.
Rambunctious. Yeah.
And he was just always just Mr. Chill from like day one. And I was just like,
hmm
and that's how he became zen, was
Yeah.
because he was zen and he just
Yeah.
embodied that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's an angel. He's a now he's like a literal angel now. But okay, so I want to stay to try to like keep this not too long of a whole thing and stay on course here. But so as far as like generational trauma on that side of things, I know that was what I was personally working with, like on mother lineage side. And then on the father lineage side, there is like sexual abuse and whatever things like that. We're oversimplifying here. There's other things and good and bad on each side. Like my mom gave, I feel like there's like there's generational curses and there's generational gifts, and there's always both like in everything, right? And I've talked about some of the gifts I've gotten from my mom, but I've also gotten gifts from like my dad's side. Like my grandmother, like my dad's mom, very smart, very academically smart in terms of like psychology, and she's a very grounded woman, and she was very much like a solace for me in my childhood. My dad is he's very courageous and charismatic, and like he has the entrepreneur spirit like in ways, and he has his flaws too.
Salesmanship,
Yep. He could sell
silver
ice to
tongue.
Eskimos, and like
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to also have that in me, that spirit in me, and I believe that's a gift. And he's very smart as well and good with people. But yeah, like on my dad's side, there's also my dad. He's definitely a dismissive avoidant, like a passive, like very passive people pleaser, and also is an alcoholic, right? And so like I've had to explore my own relationship to alcohol and my own like people be really mindful of who I dated, because when I at one point in my life, I was like, again, maybe a bit of an overcorrection and to each their own, but I was like, I won't date anybody that even touches alcohol. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit more nuanced with it. But yeah, and like with my dad, it's like in that side of things, it's like I had to address my own, like, I feel like that was the source of like anxious attachment stuff for me. And so in childhood, I experienced just like the things that I witnessed, physical abuse and then narcissistic abuse as well. And then on my with my dad, it was like very much, he was very inconsistent because he wasn't very stable, not a bad person, but just not aware, had a lot going on in terms of that kind of thing.
Well, and
But
there was also, for me, I tried to protect you guys from his
yeah,
alcoholism. But so I fostered your relationship with grandma, Nick's mom. And
oh, you should.
because my mom wouldn't even allow me to know my own grandparents
Oh,
on my dad's side. So that
interesting.
was also an overcorrection. And not even an overcorrection. I felt like I missed out because
Yeah,
there's so much wisdom in our grandparents and our when we get to that age, it's like that wisdom needs to be passed down. And there's so much now that I'm a grandparent, it's like I just can't wait to like share all this stuff with Sebastian.
I
But
know. He's so perfect. Yeah, where's the nephew? Which I get to see
not
him
in the
in a
bad
few
way,
days.
the love way.
Ah, gonna eat him,
Oh, so
bake him
like,
into
and I
some
was the one that
nephew
was
cake.
getting in the car and driving halfway to meet Grandma Chris so you could
Oh,
have holidays with her. I was
yeah.
because your dad had what, 7 DUIs? And
Hmm.
because he's so Mr. Charming, it's like he always got them dropped down. I don't know, he had five that were dropped down to second ones. I don't know how you do that, but
Yeah.
but I always tried to protect you guys from that stuff. And it's like, and when like you guys would call me, it's like when there were situations that happened when I would always like when you would have visitation with your dad in another town where I was working, where he lived. And I found out that he collapsed in a drunk blackout on top of you guys, and you guys were pretty small. You guys are still small, but and Bella was like trying to get dad, and then she went once she got you guys out from underneath. You guys went and locked yourself in the room and called me because I was in Des Moines, and that's the stuff I was trying to protect you from, and those are the kind of things that I I didn't want to have you guys experience
Yeah.
because I watched my mom cry from her grandmother. I talked to my older half siblings, brothers, about how abusive my own biological father was in drunken rages. I never experienced that, thank God. But again, grandma protected me from that. And it's just, and then you weave in the metaphysics and my spirituality. And I always think everything has a purpose, everything happens for a reason. And we are here to break that stuff in our genealogy, in our family lineage. And it's an honor to do that, to be honest. It's hard flipping work though. But I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a better person for it now. It's
Yeah,
like,
you
because
absolutely are.
I
I
can
mean,
look back at my life and I know where I screwed up. I know because again, it's like, yeah, I should have left certain things sooner and et cetera, et cetera. But I just had such a need to overcorrect from my own upbringing. And that's why I think I'm okay just being me and poured into me. And I've
yeah.
got a great support system. I've got wonderful friends. I have amazing kids that I'm very proud of every day. And you all are doing so much more than I could have ever dreamed. It's like you guys started out way ahead of the game. And I think when it's like there is some generational gifts, it's like you wouldn't have gotten that. You wouldn't have had the relationship with grandma if I wouldn't have overcorrected with your dad's mom. Because it would have been very easy for me to be like, no,
Yeah.
but I'm not punitive.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to have what I didn't, and I still do. And I think it's like, again, there's the two things. Did I fuck them up? Is this going to fuck them up? And the other thing is you have to let your kids bump into their own trees because sometimes you can give them the lessons. You can say, hey, don't do what I did. But sometimes it's like, you don't, I think I bumped into 1,000 trees. I think you guys have had 10. So you still had to learn some stuff. So your kids
Yeah.
are going to be far better off than you guys and way farther than me and a
Yeah.
billion years, billion miles away from where my parents were. So
Yeah.
it's like we're doing that work and it's beautiful and it's powerful and it's hard and it's crunchy sometimes and it's ugly cries and it's oh, I don't want to do this anymore. It sucks. I just don't want to be on the planet anymore. It's all that stuff. And then you have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you have to be like, no,
What?
I'm not
Yeah.
doing that. You
One
know,
thing I want to say that you said that I think so many parents are going to really value hearing that I want to just like extra highlight. And this is one of the things that I will say, like, I really benefited from is like when you said letting your kids like run into their own trees, because it's sometimes it's like when we are a codependent person and we're codependent in our romantic life, we can also be codependent with our children, and we can struggle with enmeshment where it's like we have a hard time like respecting their autonomy and individual experience. And there's opposite extremes too, where it's you're
Absolutely.
if you're neglectful and like you don't ever check in with them or whatever, and that child might develop into like a lot of independence earlier than maybe they had to and miss out on some developmental things, but and have to like maybe heal from that at another time if they choose to. But something that I maybe feel like that was a bit more true for me personally, where I felt like I like had to be really strong, like really like at a younger age, which has served me. But I also had to learn how to like relax more and have more fun and be enjoy life a little bit more. But I something that I've seen with like my clients that I work on with their relationships that do have kids, it's like they get so lost in their kids sometimes because it's one either out of love or out of like guilt. Right. And so it's like when the thing is like there is no such thing. And I've personally studied a lot about like child psychology through just wanting to understand myself and the work that I do with people and breaking generational trauma. And it's the reality is like there's absolutely no such thing as a perfect parent, and every parent's going to have their quirks, but it's about like, knowing like what yours are and like knowing how to work with them. And also knowing that it's like when you are imperfect, it's about having repair with your kid, and it's about what you do most of the time, not what you do sometimes. And if most of the time like you're consistent, you're patient, right? If you get overstimulated sometime, like that's not going to make or break your child's like attachment system, like their attachment style, their psyche, right? And like when you have repair and you do take responsibility with your kids and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, like mommy was just in a bad mood. Mommy was just been really like mom was stressed out. Everything's fine. You don't have to worry about it, but I just want you to know I shouldn't have said that to you that way, and I want you to know that, and I am sorry, and I hope can you forgive me?" That actual
It's really important to apologize to your kids. It
yeah.
really is. And I've done that many times with y'all, every one of you. And it's
And that's why we have the relationship that we do today, because we've had repair.
it's also as your job as a parent to get your kids to the point where they don't need you anymore. And it's like you have to be like, here you go, world. And it's hard because
Yeah.
you're there goes your heart out there in the world, and you just pray and do protection stuff around your kids. I do anyway.
Yeah. And she also cursed some of my childhood bullies or hexed them a little bit, but we're not gonna I talked about that on a different episode. You guys can go listen to that, the occultist episode that is gonna come
Was that
out.
the TikTok stuff?
No, that was separate. So I had somebody else on my podcast recently who's like an occultist woman, and we talked about a lot about like spell work and stuff. And I told her about how, which let's not get into this because we already have it in the
Yeah.
episode, but just like a sidebar thing of, I told her about like the whole dropping houses thing of like bringing people's karma back to them and whatever. So I was like just making a silly joke.
That's just one way to get out of the karma of it. You
Yep,
just
yep,
it. You have
yep,
to be a
yep,
good witch, not a
yep,
bad witch. Otherwise, you
exactly.
get it back.
Yeah,
So
exactly. But yeah, so like having that repair, which I want to talk about because I just want to like, touch on this because I know at certain points in our relationship, and something that you had said to me at one point is that like my boundaries with you have helped you with your life, help you get better at boundaries with people in general.
absolutely. And
And
I tell people that all the time. I wouldn't have learned the boundaries that I have now in my life if it wasn't for you and Genevieve. Because you
mhm,
guys had, when you guys were trying to heal stuff away from me, and it was so hard. Oh my God, it hurt me so bad. But I understood it. And I hoped and prayed that you guys would come back around and that I would be a better person for it. And I was. And it wasn't any kind of tit for tat or punitive kind of thing. It wasn't anything like that. But
mhm.
it's like you taught me a lot. And so there's also that balance. It's like you guys are growing and evolving. And it's like you're
And you learn from
teaching,
your kids.
you do. It's like sometimes you have ancient souls that are born in these little tiny bodies that are so wise. And so you
Soul
have to treat them
family,
with
soul contract.
exactly. And they're here to help you. And you agreed to it before when you were in spirit form on the other side, soul contracts, and I believe that we write our scripts. And I'm thankful. I am so thankful. I am
Mhm.
for all the bumps and bruises and trauma. And what that did for me is I grew, I learned, I shifted, I healed. and we're all still works in progress. Don't get me wrong. I am not ascended master in a body. It's like I strive to be that, but that's what I'm ready. Just what I'm ready to help the planet do. But I know I'm still in a human body and I still have the human filter. But my soul work is very much of wanting to uplift the planet to a higher frequency so that we can all shift.
Yeah.
And I do that through my work, and I've done that since I was in my early 20s. Because I worked on a psychic line one of my first jobs
Yeah.
back in the 90s when I was like Miss Cleo.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to highlight really quick that I think is really important as a parent, like healing generational trauma and like allowing your children to like have their own healing or their own growth or find their own pathway in whatever it is that you gave them, right? So it's like you teach your kids a lot, you prepare them as much as you can, but then in also ways it's like they teach you and you have to respect like their individuality of who they choose to be, like for better or for worse. Sometimes it's through their struggles and their mistakes. And it's where it's like sometimes your kids are going to have boundaries with you, and sometimes you have to have boundaries with your kids, right? It goes both ways at
Absolutely.
times. And one thing that I will say in our relationship over the years is like something that I just personally witnessed in you, mom, is that like you got a lot better at not allowing like shame or like guilt to keep you from being able to have a healing conversation with me, right? Where it's like, at maybe different points, and I think that all parents can struggle with this, where it's like you can be like, "Ah, I was a terrible mom," and you just shut down, like yeah, victim, exactly, like victim mentality, like as a parent, like in a parent-child dynamic, and being able to find that like secure attachment, like with your kids or with your parents, and being able to have repair and know that it's okay to not be perfect and make the changes just like you would with a partner or a friend. And obviously the dynamic's a bit different, but seeing that change in you over the years, I know made such a difference in our ability to like have a lot of healing in our relationship.
Yeah. And I had to work on myself. I had to move 1,200 miles to heal from the toxic narcissistic marriage that I was in,
Yeah.
which I couldn't even see it when I was in it. I just was like, I was craving the love bombing. That's what I was like, and
Trauma bond.
yep, it was totally a trauma bond. And part of my heart will always love both of those men. But it's like, I have to have, as I briefly dated your dad a year ago,
As soon as you
Sebastian.
told me that, I was like, this is none of my business. You guys do what you need to do.
Yeah. And,
Wish you
and I
both the
had
best though.
yeah, it's because this just makes perfect sense. It's like we both love the same people. Yeah, we do. But it's like he also is very, like you said, avoids stuff, and alcohol's a big deal breaker for me. And from a spiritual aspect, the reason why I think alcohol is so bad is because it lowers your vibration, it weakens your energy field, and it leaves you open for entity attachments. And what I mean by that is entity attachments like discarnates that don't cross over. If you've ever seen the movie Ghost and the guy that really wants the cigarette in the subway, that's always a good movie. Whoever wrote that movie was just chef's kiss. It's very accurate for being such an old movie. And it's I just because it's like if you're intimate with someone that is that much of it that has been that deeply enmeshed in alcoholism and that's their partner in life, it's like when you're intimate with someone, that leaves you drop your walls down when you're intimate with someone, and then you have a that leaves you open. And I wasn't having that. And so I had to put some boundaries down and it's like I gave him this is my boundary. And I was like, and he wouldn't stop. And I was like, okay, I love you. I wish you the best.
Yeah.
And that's that. I'll always love your dad. And I'll always love
Yeah, of
Noah's
course.
dad.
I
But
know.
it's like,
And that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful.
but I needed to do that for me. And there would have been a point in my life I wouldn't have. And
Yeah.
so I thank you for those boundaries, Gianna, because I learned a lot from you. I do. It's because I don't think I would be where I am without the amazing kids that I have. And
Aw.
that's that I did so much growth because of you. It's like you guys propelled me into places I maybe wouldn't ever go to. I would have just been like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to. But it's like you have to. You just have to rip the layers off and get to that. I posted this video. It's like your inner demons. It's like yesterday I posted this video. It's like this lady and this ugly demon's coming up. And she reaches out her arms and she hugs the demon and the demon transforms into a little version of herself.
Hmm.
And I was just like, that just like sums it up, really.
Yeah.
That's because it's like we demonize ourselves so much. We demonize our wounds. We
Outcast parts
demonize
of
our youth.
ourselves, yeah,
Yeah.
that
And
we
it's
see
like,
in others, and we have to integrate it and love it, and we
exactly,
have compassion for the person who was that way. Yeah. Amen.
exactly. We're
So,
probably getting close to needing to
yeah,
wrap up. I don't know what the
yeah,
time is, but that's just
yeah,
my intuitive sense. And don't even wear a watch.
yeah,
I'm just a bracelet.
yeah. No, totally. You're dead on. But so before we wrap up, there was one thing that I was going to say. What was it? Yeah, I don't know. I think that we touched on a lot of good stuff that I think a lot of people get a lot of value out of. Yeah, and everything that I wanted to touch on, we basically did. And there's more nuance that we not, couldn't necessarily potentially get into with the time that we had, but I think we did a really great job. And I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. So before we wrap up, I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting to say, but it's fine. It's all perfect. So before we wrap up, like we mentioned at the beginning, my mom is a psychic medium. And honestly, I'm not just saying this because she's my mom, because honestly, when me and my mom weren't in the best place, it like annoyed me to admit this. But my mom's readings are so good. So if you value, if you want to get like a psychic reading of some kind, like mediumship, like astrology, tarot, like she's honestly like the best out there, like and has like spiritual awareness alongside of it as well. Something that maybe we can talk about another time is like the astrology of, because I had an astrologer on at one point and we talked about the aspects with like romantic relationships, but you also have synastry with your kids, right? And so that's a whole thing. But and I know like we both have a lot of Gemini placements, right? So that's
And
fun.
your dad too.
Oh yeah, and dad does too for sure. And so does my nephew. Like he has a Gemini moon too, which is I'm a Gemini rising and Gemini moon, and so is my twin sister, obviously. But so there's
And
that.
I'm a Gemini sun, Gemini rising.
Yep, yep. So we got this whole Gemini thing going on, but which is awesome, which I feel like is like the witchy thing a little bit. But anyways, so where can people find you to hit you up for a reading, and how much is it to get a reading from you? Just so that way people know.
So I also forgot to, it's like I also do hypnosis. I'm a
Oh yeah.
hypnotherapist. And
And
I'm a Reiki master. I have so many, and a kinesiologist. I do all the things. I have so many tools in my tool bucket, my tool belt.
this is
Um,
who raised me, ladies and
and
gentlemen.
and do you remember like when you were little, I would hypnotize the girls so I could get them to go to sleep because they would never settle down, and then they wouldn't let me snap at them anymore. They'd be like, "No, mama."
So that's
I
funny.
was young.
And you
It
would
was
do
so fun.
reflexology on our feet and stuff, all
Yeah.
kinds of things. Yep.
Yeah. So how do you find me? Best way to do is I know all my Facebook stuff goes over to Instagram. I hardly ever check my Instagram messages, so reach out to me on Messenger
On
or
Facebook,
on Facebook Messenger.
Robbie Porter,
Um,
and I will link her in everywhere this episode is posted. Or
okay,
just search Robbie Porter online on
and I
Facebook
charge
though.
150 an hour, and I just intuitively I connect with your guides and they tell me what you need and what you need to hear. And of course, we always leave room for questions, but a lot of times the guides know what you want to know anyway. I do a lot of stuff with soul origin, like sometimes I work with star seeds, people that are not, their soul origin is not this planet. I can tell you about that stuff. I can tell you about all sorts of stuff, past, present, future, where you need to heal, medical stuff,
Past
astrology.
lives.
Yeah, past lives. Oh my gosh, I've got some crazy stories about past life stuff that I've helped people heal. But we need to wrap this up. I don't even have a website, but I don't know, I just gave up on it because it's like social media is really the way to do it anymore.
You get
And
so many referrals that,
I
yeah.
do. It's like my clients are my best advertising, to be honest. It's like I've had clients that have been working with me for over 30 years. And some of them call me once a month, some of them call me twice a year, some once a year. It just depends. It's like but I love what I do, and it's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to help people. And I'm very grateful. And I'm so grateful for you, Gianna, and I love you so much.
I love you too. I love you too. Thank you for saying that. It means a lot. So that's where to find my mom. Hit her up for a reading. Send her that cash money. She is worth it. It'll change your life. I promise you. She's so good. She's helped me so much with her readings. But yeah,
I haven't, as far as it's like people that are comparable to me charge a whole, and I can't even think of
honestly, I
anybody,
think you should
honestly.
raise your rates, but that's a whole other
But it's like I don't
conversation.
want to price people out. That's the thing. I want everybody to be able to have access to me. That's why I
Mhm.
don't,
Fair
because it's like,
enough. Fair
you
enough.
know,
But if you can afford it, just give her a good tip, okay? Give her a good tip because she is the creme de la creme of like psychic readers. Like she could, yeah. There's she could have been like, but by choice just chose other things. She could have been like, what's that lady? The Long Island Medium. You could have had like your own
360.
show and charged like $1,000 for a 30-minute thing. You could do that. Like honestly, you do what you
But
got to do.
I would never do that though. I would love to get my work more known, but I also don't want to price people out of me because it's
Yeah.
like I know I'm valuable and I want people to have access to me and not have to save up if they're financially strapped. And I don't get me wrong, I have like clientele that are like billionaires and I've got clientele that are CEOs. And I mean, I forget who said that, but there's a famous quote from one of the old money guys. It's these people that have psychic and millionaires don't have psychics and mediums. Billionaires do.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Do that.
and it's like, so I do have very influential people that I've worked with. I've in my life and politicians and CEOs of Fortune 100s, 500s companies and all sorts of stuff. But to me, it's all about just helping the planet. So,
Yeah.
and
I respect
helping
it.
us grow and evolve.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
all right, I love
Well,
you,
thanks
honey.
for sharing all that. You guys know where to find her. And we would love to know whether you follow my mom or me online. Feel free to DM us and let us know what you thought of the episode. Okay, you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. Thank you, Gianna. I love you, honey.
Love you too.